Elizabeth Warren is in the news again, and yes, we all know that her debacle regarding, being Native American and Trump calling her Pocahontas is all very amusing because it is actually kind of funny because she is probably one of the whitest people around, and she was going around for what seems like decades, uh, proclaiming that she was Native American. And I'm actually going to give her not so much slack, but I'm going to say that I think she actually believed it to an extent herself. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that she did, and she had no proof of it, but I think she actually believed that to an extent herself. Nevertheless, it was completely embarrassing for her, and she really shouldn't have gone down that path, because, I mean, just if she would just look at the mirror, it's self-evidently obvious that she is not Native American. But that's not exactly what I want to talk about. Now, me and Elizabeth Warren, I pretty much do not agree with more or less any policy position that she holds. She does, although I will say this, she does actually give some lip service to, or at least in the past, she did give some lip service to uh, economic measures when she's not focusing on, things like identity politics. When she isn't focusing on issues like that and focusing on the economy, it's not necessarily that I agree with her, but at least she's focusing on some issues that are of some import. One example of this is uh, the tech oligopolies of Silicon Valley, and Elizabeth Warren has said on numerous occasions that she desires to break them up. And this segues into this story from Vox, where she's constantly proclaiming that she wants to break these companies up, and yet the Silicon Valley tech giants are donating heavily to her campaign. Now, let's read. This is again from Vox.com. The title is Silicon Valley Billionaire Strategy New Silicon Valley Billionaire Strange New Respect for Elizabeth Warren. Tech donors are slowly embracing her. She absolutely refuses to reciprocate. And it begins, Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg thinks an Elizabeth Warren presidency would, quote, suck, and you might, quote unquote, suck, and you might assume that his peers agree with him. But a quite surprising thing has happened in Silicon Valley over the last 6 months. Tech has warmed up to Elizabeth Warren. The candidate who wants to break up Zuckerberg's company and other tech giants is emerging as a frontrunner in Silicon Valley's elite circles, even as she spurns those elites' efforts to get to know her better. Hunter Walk, a former product director at Google who is now a venture capitalist, calls it his quote-unquote evolution. Now, I'm gonna interject my opinion on this. Zuckerberg has said that a Warren presidency would suck, so I suppose he's, I guess, out on that. But as far as these other, Silicon Valley, elites, as they're often called, I think it's not necessarily that they are personally enamored with her. What I believe is going on with them is they are donating and trying to get cozy with her so that they're not going to suffer under her presidency. I'm also going to go out on a limb and say I don't believe that she is being sincere. I actually somewhat agree with the rhetoric of breaking up these companies, or at least treating them like normal companies so that they aren't protected under federal law to such a large degree. I do agree with that, but I do not believe that Elizabeth Warren will take out all stops to actually accomplish that. I think at the end of the day, she's going to realize that she wants them on her side, and I don't know if she'll be cozying up to them. She might mudsling a bit, but as far as actual legislation that she'll try to push through Congress, I don't see anything coming to pass. A quote from the article, "To find her right on everything else and then disqualifying when it's about my industry, maybe that's a little bit too precious," said Walk. Again, this is Hunter Walk, former product director at Google. Said Walk, "I'm willing to say, yes, change all the other things, uproot all these other assumptions. But then, oh my goodness, when she said something about tech, that's disqualifying? Come on." Walk isn't alone. Recode is Vox. Recode's canvas of a group of major Democratic donors and fundraisers in Silicon Valley shows Warren is making significant inroads with some of tech's wealthiest Democrats. That progress would have been unthinkable just 6 months ago after she called for the industry's iconic companies to be split. And again, I believe that these inroads are being made because I'm guessing that the Silicon Valley elites, they see her as probably the most likely candidate for the Democratic primaries. She's going to be coming out of Democratic primaries because by all indications, Biden just doesn't have it in him. He's getting caught up in all kinds of weird scandals. He has all kinds of gaffes. He seems way too old. He's not remembering things correctly. So I'm assuming that they are assuming that she'll be the nominee for the Democratic ticket. Whether they believe she'll win, I don't know, but I believe that they believe that she'll be the Democratic nominee. Let's continue. Warren has not moderated her at times vitriolic rhetoric towards Silicon Valley. But tech elites are not, as often caricatured, single-issue voters driven by tech policy, and the 24 tech derivatives investors and veteran fundraisers who spoke with Recode outlined 3 key reasons why their industry is making this unexpected shift towards Warren. They say that they respect her policy rigor. They see her as less radical than once imagined, and especially when compared to Bernie Sanders. There's another story that's going to be coming up about Bernie Sanders. He's apparently in very poor health, and it's possible he may be out of the race. And perhaps, let's continue, and perhaps most importantly, she has a reasonable path to winning the nomination, and there's nothing Silicon Valley loves more than a winner. Yeah, to me, this sounds like a bunch of empty rhetoric. I believe what it really is they're just trying to save their own skins, so they're going to try to cozy up to her so that she doesn't come after them. I believe that's it. I don't think they actually... as far as other policies go, I'm sure they don't really disagree with her, but of course they don't like the rhetoric of her coming after them, but this is just to get cozy with her so that she does not do that, which I believe will, in the end, be successful. This type of tactic has actually worked on some Republican lawmakers as well. Let's continue with the article from Vox Recode. What's even more unusual is that Warren is gaining traction with these elites by doing barely any of the traditional coaxing and coddling that is mainstay of today's big money era. While some of her 2020 competitors are returning to Silicon Valley multiple times within a single month, Warren is, by at least one measure, doing the best in the tech industry while also doing the least, sometimes with glee. Excuse me. Again, I think that's just, they see her as, I said it again, I said it before, I'm going to say it again, they see her as the nominee, and they want to co-opt her so that they don't have any problems. I'm going to go out on a limb and also say that even if they didn't try to co-opt her, I don't think she would do a darn thing about Silicon Valley. This is just them covering their behinds. Earlier, Tucker Carlson, I can't remember if it was yesterday, Tucker Carlson was talking about this very issue, and he criticized Warren for taking out, don't quote me on the number, but I believe it was $3 million in Facebook ads that Elizabeth Warren had taken out for her campaign. And Carlson was going after her for this. I think that's a little unfair because, it's all an oligopoly. You have to either you either have to buy ad space from Google or Facebook. That's just unfortunately the way it is if you want to advertise at all. So either take out that ad space or or you give up, essentially. So I think Carlson was being a little unfair there. There's a lot of other things to criticize Warren for, but that is not one of them, and that does not make her a hypocrite. Let's continue with the article. If Silicon Valley is embracing her, Warren is not reciprocating. The tech mega rich's support for Warren can be hard to quantify because she, unlike every other candidate save Sanders, does not travel the high dollar fundraising circuit that offers a semi-public scoreboard for who has won over the party's leading donors. But at CEOs' dinners in hotel ballrooms and on private donor listservs across the Bay Area, Warren is emerging as an outsider that Silicon Valley insiders can live with. And again, spelled it out before, I'll spell out again. They're just trying to co-opt her.